Hey guys, we are back with another Form Check Friday, but it's Saturday. Whatever, let's do it. Hey guys, welcome back to Form Check Friday. Yes, it's Saturday. I had to push everything a day because I was driving for 14 hours living on energy drinks and protein bars. I had to make an emergency trip to LA last week, whatever, to deal with a little family thing, but everybody's okay. And thank you guys for all your messages of support. But we didn't get to do form checks last week. I'm back. I made it back in time to do this and really looking forward to it. I've missed you guys. I've missed doing this and I missed being in my home studio where I have everything organized perfectly. So no real update from me this week. I want to get right into your form checks. And as you guys know, or for those who are joining for the first time, I have not seen any of these, so we're doing this all on the fly. I think we got about 7 today, and some of you guys are posting 2 links quite frequently, and you know I'm gonna form check it because I appreciate you participating in this. But I may have to start cracking down on this because it was like 45 minutes, and now it's an hour, now it's an hour and a half. So we may have to cut this off at 1 link each, but you guys know if you throw up a second one, I'm probably going to do it. So we'll see. We're good for today. I should be able to get through these. If I have to cut it off, I'll let you know. But so let's go first with the doctor, lawyer, my man. We've been working on this for a bit, so let's see where we are. And you had a week off to practice. All right. Hey, Paul, I experimented with my grip over the last few weeks and found that I could narrow my grip by about 1 inch on each side, which seems like it helped me get my upper back tighter and arched throughout the rep. I feel like we finally figured out the last piece of my squat puzzle. But you tell me. Here's my final warm-up set. All right, maybe I asked to see your warm-up set, but well, this better be perfect because it's a warm-up. All right, let's kill the volume and see what we got to deal with here. All right, grip looks good right now. Elbows are down. You have a history of jacking your elbows super high. Oh, okay. Very good. Okay. You're fighting that urge to like dump it, to like... Let's see how you finish this off. Chest up, good. Okay. Better. With all the emphasis on your upper back and all the stuff we've been working on, you're forgetting the hip drive part. That's okay. Let's watch this again. No hip drive on that. So I want to see your butt pop up first. And what we're seeing is perfect hips and shoulders. It's too perfect right out of the bottom. A little better on that one. Too even on that one, but there's the upper back tightness that we're looking for. You're controlling it very well. Like your cadence on the way down is excellent. It's like the perfect speed. You're not sloppy. You're not diving into the bottom. I remember your squats from when we started, and these are like night and day. So this is just fine tuning from this point. So from here, just as a reminder, you're too deep here, but whatever. It'll creep up when it gets heavier. But from here, this goes first, right? So when you get to the bottom, and the forearm position here looks better than it has in the past where the elbows were like jacked up pretty high. But this could be more arched, and we'll talk about that in a second. But the main thing is, and where you're going to miss a lot of the power that you have, the potential, is that once you've gotten to the bottom, you need to start thinking about shoving your butt up first. This leads you out of the bottom. In other words, if I had my hand on your waistband, you have to imagine me just pulling straight up with my hand so that this angle very quickly and very slightly, I see this move first before I see your shoulders move. It's like 1, 2, 1, 2. Now notice it's not 1 and then you get halfway up and you do a good morning, which is everybody's criticism of the way that we coach the squat when they don't understand what we're advocating. I'm not advocating that you shove your butt up and drop your chest and then do a good morning at all. What I'm saying is when you watch someone squat really heavy weight effectively, you will see them lead with their butt. That shows me you started here and not by lifting the chest and just trying to use quads all the way up. You're pushing with your legs and driving your low back up. And it's subtle, it's an inch or two, and then that angle consistently goes back up together. So you've got that part right. You're just missing that pop. And what I always tell guys, and what I probably told you before, is if I haven't, then like do too much hip drive, because what you think is hip drive, what feels correct to you is wrong. So you have to do more than feels appropriate. And I promise you, like if I was standing behind you and I just yelled at you, dude, like drive your ass up, let's go. And like scream, you would shove your butt up like, okay, I'm sick of this dude yelling at me, fine. He wants hip drive, I'll show him hip drive. That will be the right amount, okay? So you have to overdo it. You have to exaggerate it until you feel that when you get frustrated and just give in and try and do too much, oh my God, that the weight felt so much easier. Like, okay, you'll know it when you do it because it'll fly up. At this weight, at a heavy weight, you know, it's subtle because the weight's heavy. Better on that one. Okay, so that's the hip drive's missing. It's, you know, you got a hint of it. That one, I think you took a little too long to lean over here. I mean, yeah, you're thinking about this a lot because, and I get it, like you're in your head. That one is, now you're starting to open up kind of like a clamshell, like you're lifting your chest too soon. But let's finish off talking about your upper back because this is great. Overall, these are great. But I don't want you to go back to, we got to dial in that correction with the upper back. So it's good here. We've got this, I see all these wrinkles here. We've got this nice arch, chest is up and tight. You even reset it on some of the reps, but we can't let it go. That's really good right there. But notice, let's see if your head positions. Yeah, your head's. So I can't tell because of the angle of the camera. But if you're looking, we had a problem with this on with Dick, the guy that I always do at the end. He was looking like here, and then as soon as he started squatting, he shifted his eye gaze down to here. So he was looking down, but then when he started squatting, his head would go down even more. And that continued this tendency to dump the bar up. Your eye gaze, when you get to the top and lock out and you reset the start position, you need to be, before you start the rep, you've got to pick your spot on the ground and stare at that first and then lean over. Don't try and adjust your gaze or have your eyes moving while you're starting the rep because it's going to throw your balance off and it's going to change. Remember, the goal is to like set this really nice tight upper back position and then just keep it. Just lean over and keep that back arch nice and tight the whole time. And if your eyes are moving around, you're going to have form errors that are going to make it harder to keep that position. So you want to have everything fixed in place, and then it's just a matter of leaning over and shoving your knees out. So make sure that you pick your spot on the ground first, and you may be doing this, but it seems like you might be shifting your eyes a little bit as you go down, like your head. I'm trying to watch the angle of your head. I mean, it's pretty good. It's pretty set there. It's just that initial, if they move a couple inches, that can have an effect on how much you round your upper back. Okay. Overall, like, I think these are good. I need to see something heavy to see if this all goes out the window. But I just feel like you may be losing it a little, and I want to hammer in that right there. What you just did there, where you thought you were up pretty tight and then you tightened it more. I want you to maintain this level of tightness. And I feel like as soon as we start the rep, you kind of lose it a little bit. You're pretty good there. Here's my deal. Let's say this. Okay. This part here. See if I don't know if you caught that, but watch your upper back. See how you tighten it up like that just a little more? It's like it's tight, then it's tighter. Pay attention to how that feels when you do that. The sensation in your body, the thing you have to think about to make that happen. And think about that all the way down. And as you approach the bottom, make sure that, like, try and do it again. So even if you're losing it, like right about here, yeah, you kind of lost it a little bit. And I mean, it's subtle. You're still better than you've ever been. And that we can tell by the angle of your arms and everything like that. But it's not as tight as it was when you tightened it there. That's what I want. And you see how when you do that, your elbows pull down a little bit. So let me see if I can explain this better. I'm a little groggy from the drive, so bear with me. But top of the head, hip, this whole segment, once you get to this position where you're this tight, which is like, let's call this your maximal amount of tightness, that's fixed. It never loosens. And then all you do is you hinge over at the hip, right? So this segment right here just becomes this segment here all the way down. If this is your upper back, you tighten it and then you lean over, but notice that I never went like that, right? So you're standing, I'm in my front of my face. You're standing here, you take that breath and you tighten it, and then it just hinges. If at any point as it hinges, this softens, you let go of some of that. Some people can get away with that and not have the errors that you're presenting, like they can still manage to, do it decently. But in your case, this is the thing that we have to fix. So you're doing everything right. I just say focus on this level of intent of upper back extension and don't ever let it reduce until you get back to the top of the rep, right? So all the way down, you are still trying to create that sensation that you had in that moment when you said it even harder, okay? And the more and again, pause squats, which I've talked to you about a million times, great exercise for confirming that when you get to the bottom, you couldn't possibly arch your back up anymore, right? That's really the test. So when you're warming up and you're playing with pause squats, everything else is good for you. I want you to focus on, okay, I'm gonna set my back, I'm gonna get that extension, and then I'm gonna lean over, I'm gonna take it all the way down. And while I'm paused down there, I'm gonna check if I could do that thing I did at the top again. And if it moves at all, you let it go at some point, right? It's like when you get to the bottom and I tell people who have a knee issue, try and shove your knees out even harder when you get down there. You shouldn't be able to, because they should be maximally out. But if I could walk up and pull them out more, you didn't shove them out all the way. If you could set harder again at the bottom, then at some point in the descent, you let it go. So all of your focus needs to be on, once you do that, it's locked and it doesn't change. And you get to reset in between each rep. But once you take that breath from rep to rep and you tighten it up again like you're doing beautifully, when you get to the bottom, it should be just as tight as at the top, okay? And again, very good work all around. These look 1,000 times better than where we started. And so I think we are dialing this in. It's just a matter of you sort of internalizing that sensation, and then you can store it away because you don't have to think about it anymore, right? Good. The other thing is hip drive. So exaggerated hip drive. Just everything from now on is like too much hip drive. You want my comment to be, dude, that was too much hip drive. What are you doing? Rein it in, okay? So the next video, I want to see working weight and like heavy for you, whatever that is, like a work set. And I want to see what you think is like more hip drive than you've ever done. Okay? And we'll go from there. Good work. Good to see you again. Thanks for posting, and we'll move on. Okay. jeepnsteak. I think this is Luke. Forgive me, but I think I've got the names. I'm starting to get your usernames with real names. Okay. First form check for my mom, who I've been coaching remotely. Oh, cool. All right. She's enjoyed the programming change from starting strength to a slightly simplified or modified ascending ascending rep style. Okay, so she's doing ascending triples instead of ascending fives, which is something that we do. Sometimes we recommend for women who want to do my program in radically simple strength. Okay, her shoulders won't let her get into a low bar position, and she feels better having a box to set depth. She didn't want to use the band method. As some form of squats is better than no lifting. I'm not pushing to change it. Smart. The fact that you're even able to train her is great. That's an interesting dynamic. Do you have any suggestions with high bar or box squat? Okay, so what we're going to see here is a high bar box squat. But 135, I mean, okay, go mom. Look, I don't even care what this looks like. I don't know how old she is, but she's your mother. She's got 135 pounds on the bar. She's got a barbell on her back. She looks like she's got lifting shoes on and a belt. 10 out of 10 already. This like A+ for your mom, because a lot of women are afraid to do this, and they need it more than we do as guys, because they get osteoporosis and sarcopenia much easier. And okay. Your mom has more hip drive than the guy that we just form checked. Okay. With a high bar too. It's harder to hip drive with high bar. All right. That's going to be. Oh, she's got great pop. Look at that. her hip drive is so good. And the other guy was like, just no hip drive. All right, just watch this guy's mom who's learning how to squat. I mean, that's kind of, there's a takeaway there, which is that like people coming in with a clean slate and no history of lifting are oftentimes easier to coach because they don't have bad habits that you have to correct. Okay, let's deal with mom here. So grip, people have, older people have, I mean, she looks quite young, but the bar is uncomfortable in the back. So you got a bar on her back, you're doing great. And if she needs a high bar for a little bit, that's fine. Like you said, at least she's squatting. And her stance looks pretty good. Eyes, let's see if she looks down at the floor. Okay, so you notice how as she goes down, she's looking straight ahead. And then as she starts squatting, she like lifts her head up like that. She's trying to keep her chest up. And even despite that, she has great hip drive. So I would just say that she will probably feel more balanced if she picks a spot closer to her feet, maybe like right on the edge of this platform here, because just staring down at the ground is going to, and she's looking up so it doesn't roll up on her neck, which is because it's high bar. But just having her, she can keep the same position, but just have her look a little bit closer to her feet. It'll help a lot with balance. It'll help her feel more stable. And let's see. So yeah, you see that chin movement on the way down. Ideally, she's got her chin fixed. You know that. Hip drive's good. And so depth is obviously off, like she's very high. And that's, again, she's squatting, which is great. And that's the size of the laundry basket that you have. I would invest in some type of sturdier box. If you can, get it from maybe Rogue or Amazon or something like, or just find something that's a little bit sturdier. But you're going to want something that's about 12 inches. And what you can do on the 12-inch box is you can take plates like your 45s or 25s, or you can cut pieces of rubber mat and you can get them to a point where she's comfortable. So look, she's got 135 on the bar. I don't think you need to load her more than this. I think that you need to work on full depth, full range of motion, because there's muscle mass that she's not hitting because she won't get deep enough. So rather than keep driving the weight up, I would keep the weight the same and I would start lowering the box so that we're tapping into all that muscle tissue that, again, is getting neglected. Because what's going to happen is she's going to get heavier and heavier, and then but none of them are going to be full depth, and then that's going to be the limiting factor. So, it's sort of an arbitrary thing. You need to get their leg strength strong, but then, so when do you cut it off? It doesn't, 95, you got her to 135. That's a heavy enough weight where going down 1 inch at a time by removing mats or making the plates. I used to have boxes in my gym that my dad helped me make. He was a woodworker, and so it was like 12 on one side. If you flipped it up, it was 14, and if you flipped it to the tallest, it was 16. So we could start people at 16 and even put plates on that, and then we could go down to 14. I could put a piece of mat on it to make it 15 or 14 3/4, and then 12. But 12 inches was good depth for most people, and she's not like a tiny woman, so she's got some hamstrings and a butt, which means 12 inches is probably going to be like the right depth for her. So find something that's 12 inches and then go up to something in between, by whatever this box is, find, and then start stripping down the mats until you just work her down slowly. So when she can do 3 reps with, and then the next time, don't increase the weight, just remove a mat and she should be good to go. And you just work your way down until she can hit depth, and then you start working up in weight. As far as shoulders and high bar position, I don't really care with someone like this. If, she could certainly work on the low bar. She could work on, doing the stretch that I use, my shoulder stretch on YouTube. But if just her being there is commitment enough and takes enough to like get into the gym, then you work with what you have. So if she wants to high bar that's fine. Just work on the depth so you're doing the full range of motion and she's not putting too much stress on her knees. And then just go up from there, once you get her down there, and just keep doing it. Let me see, fix her head position. That's easy. The chest up thing, when she lifts it on the way down, she's trying to prevent it from rolling up. And since it's already high up on her neck, it's very easy to get that feeling like it's rolling over more. So if you can work with her on, setting it up, the chest up and the chin down, and keeping that tight upper back position as she starts to squat, and she's not going to lean over as much as someone doing a low bar. She's going to still be vertical, but that feeling of it rolling up tends to affect the head position. But in this rare case, even though she's lifting her chin, she's still got great hip drive off that box. So, I love it. She's doing great. Just work on the depth, and she should be good to go. And I don't care if she's on the box forever, really. A lot of people are nervous about, especially older people, they're nervous about falling. And so they won't let themselves get low enough. So that box adds a level of security, and that's fine. Just, you can leave it there as a target. That way her depth won't creep up. I've had clients that just never got off the box, and a lot of times they were people's mothers. So it's fine. Just keep doing what she's doing, and give her a big high five from me for having the balls, the lady balls to, get under the bar, because they need it. And it's the best possible thing she could do for her health is to get stronger. There's a lot of things you can do for your health, but man, strength for a woman who is getting older, it's the single best use of your time. So great job. Okay, that made my day. All right, let's move on. That's me. And we'll go to Miguel. All right. Miguel pops up in my YouTube feed now, so I get to see his videos randomly. Just YouTube suggests them to me. All right. Let's see what Miguel's doing here. Okay. So we worked on setting your back, pausing and pulling. And in the past, your issue was rushing, setting first, and then messing around with your grip and stuff. And it was really gassing you or sapping your energy. Now you got it, man. Okay. A little drift off the shins there. Okay. So let me take all this in again. Do you have this time stamped for me or just, oh, you gave me one whole video. Perfect. Okay. Good Lord. What was that? Sorry. Okay. Whew. All right. So, shins to the bar, balance, set, and do you not have chalk on your hands? Wait, let me see your hands here. Look, your hands look bare. Oh man. Okay, I hope you have chalk on your hands. If not, you're gonna need to get some or straps or something. Okay. Not bad. So yeah, that little bump. Notice how your hands are like, you're not even really squeezing, like your hands are open right here, and then the whole thing happens at once. You close your hands while you're trying to set the back. A lot of times when you do that, you're gonna move the bar because you're contracting your forearms, right? These muscles while you're tightening up the back, and you get this like swinging motion. So I would suggest that you set that grip, make sure it's snug and tight. You know, you don't have to be like white knuckling it while you're adjusting, but once you get your hands in place, it's just a little tick you have where and I do this too, but then I set the grip and then I set my back, and you're kind of doing everything together. You want that back setting part to be its own thing. So you breathe, you grip it, and then you know, your grip is set and relatively snug, and then all you're focused on is squeezing your chest up rather than clamping your hands and trying to squeeze your chest up at the same time. Yeah, these are good, man. Let me see how flat you're getting your... I want you to give me a video next time from the side so I can see how flat you're getting your back. It looks a little rounded, obviously. I mean, I know we've been dealing with that before. Yeah, remember that pause, man. Okay, so the pause is really important for a guy like you, and I know I've drilled you on this before, right? Breathe, squeeze, pause, pull. You take a breath, you set your back, or you squeeze your chest up, you pause for a second, and you double check that you are as arched as you can be and that you didn't nudge the bar. So in that pause, if you bump the bar, you can roll it back. But it's more for you to make sure, like, okay, I think I set my back. Can I set it even harder? Because your setting looks like it's a lot of kind of upper back setting. Like the focus is here, which is what we usually advocate, squeeze your chest up, but really we're trying to get this part arched. So this turns up this way, and that usually sends a wave of extension down here, okay? But you need to focus a little bit less on this part and a little bit more on this part, okay? So this is a hard one, man. Like until it clicks, until you find the cue that makes you do the thing. And I really, really struggled with this for a long time. So I'm going to tell you some things that I think about, right? So the default is just say squeeze your chest up, because on 60 to 70% of the people that will automatically flatten this part out. Okay, that didn't work for me. I just got my upper back tight. So some things you can think about. Some of these are going to be a little crass, right? So there was a coach friend of mine who would say, who would stand back here and say, show me your butthole. And what he's talking about is like tilting your pelvis, right? This part, right? You're pointing it up here, right? So you got this corner up here, like the chin up bar. Right now, your butt is pointed down here, but if you're trying to rotate it up here, right? Because that's really what's happening, right? It's just, you're fighting for control of your pelvis. Okay, so the spinal erectors right here want to tilt it up, and the hamstrings are pulling down. So there's a war going on, right? Between, does the pelvis turn up like this, or does it curl under like this? That, that tilt that we're always talking about. And so the thing is, the hamstrings are very powerful, but the spinal erectors have to win that battle, right? They have to win so that this low back gets locked into extension. So when you're practicing, I would focus less on the chest part, because you got that down, and really focus on, I had like a marker, and I tapped a client on the butt one time down here, like on the bones. Like if you feel underneath your butt, the ischial tuberosity down there where the hamstring originates, here you'll feel that bone. And I represented it by like, look, it's pointing at the floor now. The marker is pointing straight down. Point the marker at the wall without moving anything but your hips. How are you going to do that? The only way is to rotate your pelvis, okay? And I think I mentioned before that drill where you put your hands below your knees. Let me see if I'll show you again, just real quick. So this is one just for feeling it. You're here, you get in your deadlift stance, you put your hands below your knees like this with your arms straight, okay? Your back's round, and you just push against your shins and flatten your back. Relax, flatten your back. Relax, flatten your back. In yoga, this is like cat-cow pose or something like that. But you're here and you're here. Okay, now your focus is really here. So you're focused on turning this up like this, the upper back part, right? But we're worried about this part down here. I'm like, don't cut this video up. I look like I'm twerking, okay? The low back. So notice how I can have my upper back rounded and still set my lumbar spine, right? That's what I'm trying to control. That's all we care about, right? This is how we teach people. If you just do this, most of the time it goes all the way down. But in your case, you can have someone working on their upper back and still have their lower back rounded. So I'm trying to point these bones right here that way, like this, right? So you can just sit here and practice, like look in the mirror until you feel what muscles do that, okay? And that's gonna help you a lot. Well, it takes a lot of time to get that connection if you don't already have it. Some lucky guys, it's like never an issue. They just have it. They just know exactly how to do it, and you never have to teach them. But for guys like you and me, learning, like developing that connection to those muscles is a challenge. So you have to just keep drilling it until you're like, okay, I know how to do that. And then you go to the bar and you recreate that sensation. That's kind of the missing piece here with your deadlift. Everything else looks reasonably good, but it's really control of your low back. And like I said, I spent a lot of time. Forgive me if I've told this story before, but when I did my starting strength seminar as an attendee the first time in like 2010 or 11, I thought my deadlift was fine. I've been training by myself, and Ripito standing in front of me, and everybody's watching, and I pull my first rep, and I just hear, ugh. That's all he said, ugh. I was like, I had no idea. I didn't know how to set my back. Went home from that like devastated, and just really, it took years until I figured out how to do it. And it's a lot of trial and error, but that drill that I just showed you is something you practice a lot throughout the day just to reinforce that connection. And then when you set up for your deadlift, make it feel like that drill. If you don't feel that, it's not set, don't pull it, okay? And practice it. And aside from that, like, these are good. The only thing that's going to dial it in more is really just you getting that. Yeah. Because that's what's happening. As soon as you go to pull, it kind of, you didn't really set the lower back, like your lumbar spine. And so because it's not set, as soon as you pull, it kind of it rounds even more. But if you can lock it hard, then it'll come up off the ground locked because you fully contracted those muscles and they're holding it isometrically, which is their job. And the pull will be much more efficient because it's just a perfect I mean, not perfect, but it is a very efficient transfer of power to go from a locked, rigid segment up your back, down your arms to the bar versus a segment that's kind of rounding as you're trying to pull. You're losing force from the hips and legs in those rounding spinal erectors. And so if they're like 75% set, they're going to round real easy. But if they're locked, if they're 100% set, they have a good chance of staying that way. Okay? So work on that. That's the big one. The rest of it is you're doing good. You've got the rhythm down better. So just try and let's see and move the camera a little bit more to the side so I can get a better view next time. But that's my advice for this week, man. Thanks for posting, and I'm sure you'll pop up in my YouTube feed. Okay, moving on. Okay, so brief as I can be. Deadlift. 3 to 5 set, failed on the 5th rep on the intermediate B program. That's brief. Okay. Issues I've noticed: leaning back too much, toes come off contact with the floor on later reps, maybe not engaging the lats enough to keep the bar on the shins and doing this to compensate. I don't know. Previous feedback has been that I'm not using enough leg drive. Can honestly say I can't ever tell when I'm looking at it, but I'm 100% thinking about pushing the floor away. What do you think? Other than that, just wondered how it looked and what is the most important thing for me to correct. Okay, let's take a look and I will tell you. Okay. Oh, you got those figure eights. All right. Okay. Yeah. All right. I see what you mean with the toes. Oh, okay. We got another. Oh, is this the one you failed on? Let's see. Yeah. Okay. This is kind of an interesting one. So you got the bar. I think your camera's tilted, so it's making me look like you're leaning forward, but you're not. Okay. Let's see what happens with your back here, because okay, so your lower back, as soon as you pull, is just like coming out. It's really nice there. Right, you got this nice arch here. But as soon as you start to push with your legs, it looks like it's going soft a little. I'd have to see it from the side. Sorry, I'm just trying to watch this in segments here, see what's changing. Okay. All right, I think I got it. Took me a minute. Sorry. Groggy. I think that the bar is too far in front of in the middle of your foot. So it's not, I think you have it in front of the middle of your foot, and then you watch this rep, you're going to put it down, and you didn't roll it back. So now you're more forward. So let's watch what you do when you set this down. It just, every time you set it down, you're not rolling the bar back to your shins. You are going to the bar. So every rep, you're basically squatting lower and lower a little bit, or closing the ankle angle, really. Okay. Yeah. So that's okay. So all of this is coming, and the lack of leg drive, I think, is coming from the bar being, the bar's not over the middle of your foot, and you never put it over the middle of your foot. So this is a common thing that guys do. Your bar may be just falling into some little groove in the mats, because sometimes they get these divots and it just stays there. But that's what I suspect, because that platform looks a little beat up. So it just seems like there's probably like a pit or a dent that the plates settle into. But what you would typically see, I suspect, if I put you on perfectly flat ground, is that you're going to start, you start with the bar a little bit too far in front of the middle of your foot, just like slightly. Then you pull your first rep and you put it here, right? A little further. And what you should do is get your butt back up and roll it back over the middle. But instead, and this is very common, you leave it there, and then you squat down to it a little lower. And then you pull the next rep, and then you put it down a little bit in front of that. And then you bring your shins to the bar. So the shins keep going like this every rep, right? And the bar keeps creeping out a little bit further in front of you. Now, like I said, I think those plates are settling into like a dent. And so it's the forward motion is being stopped by that. But I suspect if we put you on flat ground, it would keep, your deadlift would look more like a squat at the end. Because as you close that, right, as the shins come closer to the bar, you're going to have to drop your butt more. All of that means that when you start the pull, everything has to swing back towards the middle of your foot, right? And that momentum it's going to change the whole movement pattern, but it's also you trying to overcome the fact that it's not a straight line. You're going to pull back, and then you start to fall back. Your toes start to come up off the ground, okay? In some cases. So the solution here is we got to get this more like a straight line. And what that means is that your butt has to be higher. Okay, so I think that this is too far in front of you, and your butt should be up a little bit. Okay, so you're kind of like this, and you're probably going to have a back angle that looks more like this when you have the bar over the middle of the foot. But if you move it forward, then to touch your shins, you got to lower your hips. And you're basically turning into more of a squat. So when you push your hips up a little higher, the shins are going to come back. They're going to move back this way as your legs straighten out. And then there will be a gap between the bar and your shins. Okay, so I'm sure you're familiar. I hope you're familiar with the deadlift, 5-step deadlift setup. But the first step is you put the bar over the middle of your foot, which is you walk up to the bar and you put it 1 inch away from your shins, okay? And if you look straight down, to get your knees out of the way, your shins will go back, and it will make it seem like it's a bigger distance than it is. So the trick is you got to look from the side. Just stand up straight and peek from the side and see, and make sure that there's like no more than 1 inch between your shin and the barbell, okay? And then you're going to drop your hips to the bar, and you're going to have to get rid of this kind of weird dance you're doing with the straight legs, because it's going to screw this up. So just do that once, okay? I know you're getting amped up, but it's going to throw you off. In fact, you can nudge the bar, and then the second time you put your ass up and then bring your shins down, they have to go even further. So from this position, I mean, I know you're using straps, but you're very flexible. So, I mean, your hamstrings are like perfectly, or your legs are perfectly straight. So from this position, once you know that you're in over the middle of your foot, which is going to be closer than this, you're just going to bend your knees until your shins touch like that. Okay. It's just as soon as they touch, that's it, right? Don't push it. And that will tell you where your hip height should be. And I suspect that I know that your hips will be higher than this. Okay. So they'll be more like this when you have that bar closer to your shins. That is going to change this whole thing, right? That's going to change everything about the issues that you're having, because you're going to be in a more efficient pulling position. When you start to push, the bar will come straight up off the ground. Okay. It won't have to swing and mess with your balance and have you falling backwards. It'll just be a straight vertical line. This is going to be the hard part for you. The first rep's easy, right? Because you can look and you can be like, okay, I know where the middle of my foot is. But every rep after that, you have to reset that position. You have to remember what it feels like. Because if you put it down a little bit in front and then you start squatting down to it, you're going to run into the same problem. So I've explained this a bunch of times on these videos, but this is the thing, right? Once you pull that first rep, you put the bar down on the ground, you shove your butt back up in the air. And what you're looking for when you do that is to feel the tension behind your knees here, okay? So the right back angle for you is going to be, you're going to push your butt up until you feel it bite back here. You feel that hamstring insertion tugging right behind your knee. It tightens up. When you feel that tension, that's usually where your hips should be. If you don't feel that tension, your hips are probably too low and the bar's probably forward to the middle of your foot. So you set the bar down, you push your ass back up until you feel it bite behind your knees. Okay, then you'll see there's a gap between your shin and the bar because you put it forward and you reset your hip height. So then you leave your hips there and you roll the bar back to your shins, okay? Then you can shift your weight back onto your heels just a little bit, set your back and go. You put it down, get your butt back up, roll the bar back, set your weight on your heels, set your back, go, okay? That's the deal. So give me more of a side view so I could see, well, the plates are gonna block it, never mind. I'm not gonna be able to see the midfoot thing. But try that. I suspect that your hips are going to be a lot higher, well, a couple inches higher than this when you have that thing over the middle of your foot. All the other problems that you're having are stemming from that. It's you compensating for not having the rep correct when you're starting. So fix that. Fix that, and I think a lot of this is going to take care of itself. All the other questions that you had, let me see. Yeah, previous feedback was not using enough leg. I honestly say, I understand that it's weird because I'm telling you to get your butt up higher, which means your knees are more extended. So it may feel like less leg drive. And I know you're thinking about pushing the floor away, but one of the things you could think about when you have your hips in the right place and the bar over the middle of your foot, once that's set, I often, guys who lift their chest first, which is not really what you're doing. Let me see. Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to shut up about whatever advice I was going to give you here. Well, yeah, see, you're pulling up and back because you're forward. Because the weight is forward and the bar is forward. So you're trying to pull it off the ground and back over the middle of your foot at the same time. And it's going like this. It's the bar swinging in and you're trying to get it. I get it. Okay. Get your ass up in the air. Make sure that bar's a little closer and just push straight down and you'll be good to go. And if you post another video and it's still wrong, then I will give you, the advice about thinking about hip drive, which is one of the things like how we tell you to drive your ass up in the squat. A lot of times guys who have the pull wrong off the floor and instead of pushing with the legs, they try and open up the hips instead of like knee extension and then hip extension. They go hip extension and then knee extension. Okay. You're not really doing that, but if that's the case, I usually slap them on the low back and say, pretend you're doing a squat and hip drive this off the floor. And that usually keeps the chest down, and you can see they start to push with the legs a little bit more first. I don't think that's it. I think this is just a balance and a bar placement issue at your setup, and then each progressive rep, it goes a little bit more forward. And I think if you fix that and get your ass higher up than you want it, it's going to feel a lot better. Well, it's going to feel harder at first, so but do it that way anyway, because that, like, let it feel hard, stick with it, because this is going to bite you in the ass in the long run. But if you get it correct, you may have to back up a little bit, let everything catch up, and then you're going to blow past. I mean, good technique will always trump bad technique in the long run. So, all right, I like it. Work on it, post another one with your hips higher, and we'll go from there. Okay, let's keep going. Oh, we have 3 more? Jesus. Okay. What are we at? Almost an hour. Hey, Paul, hope everything's good with you and your family. Thanks for doing this again. Thank you. 2 lifts from this week of training. Light squats, focus on slightly straighter or slightly bent wrists. Oh, right. And a prouder chest, more upper back extension at the top, also working on eliminating that overextension of the lumbar spine at the descent. Nothing 100% fixed, but I'm curious if you see any difference. And then you posted a deadlift. All right, I'm gonna do this one first, and maybe I'll do like a very quick deadlift one. Oh, good. Okay, you fixed it. Much better. Much better. Yes. Look at your forearms. Good. Keep that chin tucked. The chin's good there, and then it kind of, Okay. Lifting the chest a little bit. Yeah, so these are great, man. Real quick. Your head position on the way up, head position makes a big difference, and I always talk about this, but right, if we think about here, and then we've got this little angle here, I want this angle to be straight like that, which means your head is gonna be, let me see if I can mimic your back angle. Your head is just gonna be like that, neutral. Okay, so lifting the head lifts the chest, and as you go down, lifting the chin flares the chest. It causes movement in a segment that's supposed to be rigid the whole time. So it's a simple thing. Just keep your head down. The downstream effect of that is you fix it, or you prevent a lot of other things from happening. Okay, so it's really important to just pick a spot on the floor. If you have a tendency to do this, pick a spot closer to your feet. You may even pick a spot like, I look about 6 inches in front of my toes, very, very straight down. And it just prevents me from lifting my head like that. So I think that's the only thing that could make this a little bit more efficient. But let's see. You're doing a great, yeah. If you have your head more down as you start like right there, notice that? Like this position when you set, you're looking down at the ground. Your head is neutral. I mean, it's basically like this. We don't really have this, like, you're not kicked back like that as much. So all you're doing is taking this segment and making it like that as you lean over, right? It's not make it lean over and also arch it more. It's just this. It just goes like this. It doesn't go like as you're leaning over, you're arching. It's perfectly straight the whole time. So let's see if you, yeah. So I think this, the main fix for you, I think the thing that'll make it actually just kind of fall together, just the pieces come together, is just keep your eyes right here. Like 6 inches, maybe a foot at most in front of your toes, and just stare at that spot the whole time. So from the top position, the entire rep, you're looking down at that spot the whole time. Okay? It never, and not looking at it like you know, like this, where your head is up but your eyes are down. Like your eyes look straight ahead and then you look at that spot. So if your head moves, your eyes move. That's what I'm talking about, okay? You're always looking straight ahead. So when you put your head down on the floor, you're still looking straight ahead, but you're looking down. That's specifically what I'm talking about. But I think if you just move your gaze right here, this like little weird flaring thing, which is, it's undermining your hip drive a little bit, because when you're arching up, you can't, when your head's moving and you're going to lift your chest a little bit, it's going to kill your hip drive, but you're still, it's minimal. This is where I'm nitpicking now. Like this is very good. So I want that arch up and then, yeah, and then hold it on the way down. Don't arch it on the way down. Yeah, I think I talked to you about overextending your back on the way, like, that's the upper back. And you were trying to arch your low back even more as you're going down. And I told you to stop doing that because you don't need to. Your back isn't in a good position. So let me do one more. Good. Yeah, I think what I would tell you is don't think so much about pushing your hips back. Just think more about leaning over, because it looks like your focus is kind of on your low back. It's a lot better than it was, but that sort of like that initial unlocking of the hips. Okay, so when you squat, you unlock the knees and the hips at the same time. You lean over and you shove your knees out at the same time. And the hips unlock and move backwards while the knees go forward and out. And that motion, you're adding a sort of anterior pelvic tilt, as they call it. You're extending your lumbar spine, right? Or maybe it's anterior. Okay, but you're almost extending your low back as the rep starts. And this is what we talked about before. Whereas I just want you to lean over. Just think more here. Keep your focus here. Keep your focus on your head position and your chest. And just think, I take that breath. I'm tight. My chest is up. Okay, I'm set. Now you're going to squat. All you're thinking about is stamp this on the ground and get my knees out of the way to do it. So I want your focus more on your chest and your head than on your back, because your back's fine. But you don't need to do anything with that. You don't need to think about it. You don't need to extend it more. Just lean over, stare at the ground, and try and stamp your chest on the floor between your toes, right? If you think about, I'm going to stamp my chest here. How do I do that? Well, you get your chest closer to the floor by leaning over. You're not going to flare it up, right? Because if you flare it up, now your chest is pointed that way. You're not going to stamp it on the floor. So that's the thing. Get tight, think about less, lean over, head down, chest touches the floor, and just keep your eyes on that one spot a few inches in front of your toes. I think you'll be good. Okay, keep that head down. But let's take another look. Try it. Let's see what happens next week. Okay, you posted a deadlift. So working on these, better extension. Did the drills. Okay, I'm gonna look at this real quick because we're over an hour now. Here we go. Shins. Ooh. Okay. Let me watch the set and then I'm gonna give you one quick. Much better extension. There's one problem, easy fix. Well, simple. You're trying to pick this up by opening up your hips instead of using your legs. Okay? So here's the problem with this. I believe this is way better. You're getting nice and set here. This looks pretty good. Okay, so you have this angle here and you have this angle here. When you start the push off the ground, what gets the deadlift off the floor is knee extension. Okay? It's this. It's opening up this angle. It's pushing with your quads. it is not lifting your chest. Okay? So you have hips and knees. Those are the two joints that are moving in the deadlift. And the order off the ground is knees extend first and then hips extend. Knees first, then hips. So you push with the legs and then you stand up. Then you open up your hips. If you open up your hips first, if you open this angle here first by throwing your chest back that way and just trying to stand up, you're making your low back do all the work. You're not pushing with these big quads here, like this big muscle mass in your legs. You're just trying to make your low back lift everything. You're basically doing like a stiff leg deadlift. But you got a lot of power here. So from the floor, the first few inches off the ground, your back angle shouldn't really change that much. Okay, because you're just pushing. It should just move straight up. And then once you get closer to your knee with the bar, then you lift your chest. The other problem is if you start with hip extension, the bar often swings away from you. Let's see if that actually happens. It's subtle, but not a whole lot. The other thing to consider here is that you may have that bar behind the middle of your foot, which isn't very common. But yeah, so most people put the bar too far in front of the middle of their foot and then they end up squatting their deadlift, right? Because they drop their butt to get their knees to touch the bar. In very rare cases, it does happen. You get a flexible guy whose butt is up so high that the bar on the shins is actually behind the middle of the foot. Okay, so the knees are extended so much that they can't really help at that point. It's like doing a stiff leg deadlift, right? The knees are almost fully extended and then all he has to get it off the ground is hip extension. So usually, I mean, that may be what's happening with you. So make sure that, you know, in the last form check, I said that the guys make sure he had no more than an inch, basically an inch between his shin and the barbell when he peeks at it. Okay. In your case, make sure you have at least an inch, like, because if you have less than that, if the bar's behind the middle of your foot, then you're not going to have the quads to help you get this thing off the ground, and you're going to end up just doing what you're doing, which is hip extension. So you might need to actually squat your deadlift a little more. You might need to start with the bar a little bit further. It should be mid-foot, but double check and get your butt a little bit lower so you can get more leg drive, okay? That's the quick rundown on that one. I'm moving on. We got two more. I'm fading. Okay, not going to lie, I told myself I was going to do 3 to give me a little breather and go for 5 next week. My lower back has been feeling really fatigued and achy, as well as my legs. Something came over me on the second rep, as this set felt better than 360 last week. You lasted a form check for me on squat midsummer, and it was 315 for 5, and here's my set of 365 for 5. Okay, excellent. Great work, man. All right. Looks pretty good. Okay, getting a little forward, but yeah. Okay. So I've got, let me see one more here. Yeah, okay. So you got knee slide, right? First of all, good job, 365. Your depth is pretty spot on, but your problem is knee position. So you are sitting back as you start the rep, your hips go back, right? You're shoving your butt back, but you're also not putting your knees forward fast enough. Okay, so it's not just hips go back, it's hips go back and knees go forward. And they do it like this, boom. Okay, it's not 1, 2, or 1, 2, because that will pull you in different directions. It's even, boom, okay? And if you don't put your knee where it will end up at the bottom, which is, let's pause it. Okay, so you're at the bottom and your knee is here, basically in front of your toe. If you don't put it here right away, then it will slide there as you approach the bottom. And when it slides there, it will pull you forward, okay? And then you will push your butt back to compensate for that, and then you'll lean over more, and then the bar will roll up on your neck, and then you'll have to open up your hips to save it from dumping it over, or you'll lift your chest to save it from falling over your head, and the whole thing's off, okay? Which is exactly what's happening here. This is why this is why you're hitting that sticking point. So see that? Your heel's lifted off the ground because the knee pulled forward, so now you're gonna shift back and open up your hips too soon. So all of this means by this point here, look, you're about halfway down, and your knee is gonna go here because that's where your toe is. So you got this gap right here between your knee and you didn't get it far enough forward fast enough. So watch your knee as I hit play, and you'll just see it slide forward even more. Boom, right there. And now you're bouncing that way. Instead of keeping this thing in the slot and moving it straight up and down, you're going down, boom, and then back. Okay? So what's the fix? The fix is to get your knees forward right away. And because I have a video on this, which is here on hornstrength.com/videos, at the bottom, I think, what do the knees and hips do in the squat? It's called Let's Get to the Bottom of Your Squat. It's me when I was skinnier and younger, explaining everything about scissor lifts, which is a representation of the knees going out like that. So watch that video. Use you can use a plastic pipe or something to drill the knee position, but you got to fix your knees. If you fix your knee position and you get them set by the time you're halfway down, the rest of this will take care of itself. So that's everything else that I would comment on is stemming from that issue. It's a balance issue because you're great at sitting. Everybody knows to sit back. Everybody knows, like, shove your butt back when you squat, but it's less common for them to understand that the knees have to go forward too to keep you over the middle. And I go into detail in that video. So watch that, work on it, fix it, post another video, and I'll take a look. All right, thank you. And we got one more new guy. Okay, first time posting, male, 35, 5'9", 193, 5'9", 100. Okay, post novice, bench press 80 kilos, press 132 kilos. Let's look at your bench. I'm running out of steam here, so. Are you Brussels barbell? Huh. That kind of gym kind of looks familiar. Okay. Oh, we're doing 8 here. All right, so you got to stop bouncing it off your chest, first of all, because you're going to touch your chest. You're not going to use your chest as a springboard to bounce the weight off of. So, yeah, that's the big one. Now, your foot position is, I mean, you can have your feet tucked back like that. That's fine. I think in some competitions, your heels have to be on the ground. But my advice for getting tight on the bench, and this is not really anything, this is just a little random tip, is to walk your feet back till your heels start to lift up off the ground, right? Pull them back till they pull up like an inch, and then shove them down. Like jack them down onto the rubber, and that will automatically engage your quads and keep you really tight. Now, you're pretty solid on the bench, so, but you might try it. Your grip might, it's kind of hard to tell. Your grip looks okay. It might be a little narrow, right? Because your forearm's at like a little bit of an angle here. Or you might need to tuck your elbows in a little more. The main thing on this is you just got to stop using your chest as a springboard. You're setting your back, your chest is up. Your elbows are kind of flaring out on your heavy ones. So I can't really tell from the angle your grip with it. I think it might be a little narrow. So because again, at the bottom you want vertical forearms. So if we're wider like that or we're narrower like that, we're reducing the range of motion around the shoulder. And so here's what you do. Just stick your thumbs out, right? When you set your grip up, stick your thumbs out like this on the bar and then move them out. So there's an inch of knurling showing between the tip of your thumb and the smooth part in the middle on both sides. So you should see like an inch between the thumbnail and the start of the smooth part. And then that's usually the right grip for most people. Now, some people need to go a little bit wider. Some people need to go a little bit narrower, but most of the time, if you've got like a finger width of space between the tip of the thumb and the edge, that's about right. Okay. If I was standing in front of you, I'd be able to see this a little bit better, but you may need to work on keeping the elbows tucked a little bit more. Overall, like, you got a decent bench here. Get these collars off the bar. Well, you do have a spotter, so I guess that's okay. I don't like collars on the bar for safety reasons, but, and yeah, try planting your feet, because the more stable the more you have your whole foot touching the ground, pushing, the more stable you're going to feel. You might be able to lift a little bit more weight that way. But the main thing is like you're cheating yourself from like the important part of that movement for the chest, right? Because you're just rebounding it off your rib cage and you're not really doing the work. You're not making the muscles do the work. You're just like bouncing it. So control it more. Take it down. What Rip used to say, pretend you got a piece of glass on your chest and you got to touch it with the bar but not break it. That was a good visualization. Bring it down, touch it, come back up, right? Control. Don't drop it and rebound, because then it's like doing a partial. You're just doing the tricep part at the top. So, all right. Thanks for posting that one. What the hell? We'll look at your press, even though press, I might not have it in me to correct a press. We'll see. Oh, you are at Brussels. All right. Tell Steve I say hi. Steve's a good dude. All right. Your stance is too wide, I think. Unless the camera's playing tricks on me. You should have a squat stance. So if that's the stance you squat with, it looks a little wide to me, but camera does weird things to angles and stuff. Okay, I'm going to give you a mini tip here, like a quick one. So yeah, your stance is way too wide. So go to your squat stance, and then remember, it's not so look at your head here. Okay. So you got the general idea. Pop it with the hips. Couple things. All right. I said I was going to do like one. Now I'm going to do everything. Okay. Your hips have to start from a neutral position. So if you walk it out and your hips are already forward, they don't have any place to go because you already put them forward. And when you bring the bar back down, you have to bring the hips back to neutral or they don't have any place to go. Okay, and this is a common mistake. People start with their hips too far forward and they do their first rep and maybe they're neutral and they pop them out to do the first rep and get the bounce and they leave them there and they never pull them back. So the next rep, the hips have nowhere to go. So look at what happens here. Watch your hips are already a little bit forward and then you pop it and now you're gonna press it up and you're gonna put your head under it. You're gonna do this instead of moving this whole segment this way under the bar. You're just gonna move this part under the bar. So you're gonna keep everything forward and just do this. That's not what we want. So watch your head here. See that? Your hips are still forward and you're just doing this. So you're back here and you're just doing this. Okay, that's not what we want. We want this thing to be we want your whole torso, your head, your chest, your shoulders to come back under the bar. Not this, right? Because now the bar's in front of you, and your hips are already extended forward. So it's not just pushing your face forward. The hips go out, your torso goes back. The hips come back, your torso goes forward. The whole thing is connected, not just your head. And the act of the hips hit the end of their stretch and they snap back, right? Like you bouncing out of a squat vertically, right? This is the same thing, but horizontally. So that you can't just push them out and leave them out. You got to push them out and let them rebound, because the act of the hips rebounding dynamically shoves your torso back under the bar. And as soon as you get the bar over your forehead and get your body back underneath it, it's going to shoot up because it's in balance over your foot and your shoulder joint, right? So notice, this is all head movement. Your hips are still forward. You cock them back a little bit before you go, but it's all this, okay? So narrow your stance to a squat stance. Calm down a little bit. You're pretty amped up here. And this is the same thing with bouncing the bar off your chest, right? Because you're like, I got to get 8. Like, let's go. And you've got some psych happening here, but it's too much. You're getting sloppy. And that's the problem. You're not giving yourself time to reset each rep, pull the hips back, focus your mind, get the start position set. Good, I'm ready, go. Okay, clean rep, bring it back, reset everything. So I talked about frequently the ebb and flow of intensity from rep to rep. It's not just like you're amped up the whole set from the time that you put your hands on the bar. You're gonna exhaust yourself, especially with a set of 8. It's controlled aggression, like surgically deployed aggression when you need it, and then calm and relaxation in between. So unrack it, get set. Okay, I'm ready. I'm fired up. Okay, let's go. And then you do it. You bring the bar back down. Okay, now I got to reset. So calm back down. Hips. Remember everything you're supposed to do. Okay, I'm ready. Let's fire it up. And so it's like these peaks and valleys of intensity, rather than just let's do another one and another one and another one. And your form goes to shit that way. Okay, so calm down, narrow your stance. Make sure that the hips go out and they rebound back, and that you go under the bar, not just your head. Think about pushing your chest and shoulders under the bar. Okay? Work on that. Tell Steve I say what's up. And I love him. And thank you for posting. Glad to have you on board. I hope we see you again. We'll dial it in. Just a little bit more mellow, okay? Like perfect form, like good form. Don't let the intensity make you sloppy. All right, guys, we did it. Glad to be back. Thank you all for being a part of it. I hope this was useful. I hope that I see everybody next week. We got to do one video, okay? I'm going to be militant about this now, because now I'm at 1 hour and 20 minutes, and then it takes longer to process, and it takes longer to export and upload and the whole thing. So let's go pick your video each week. If I see 2, I'm going to pick 1, okay? Not trying to be a dick here, but this is we gotta get through these a little quicker, and I'll do it if you post it, which is my weakness, because I want to help you guys. So all right, I will see you guys next week. We'll do this all again on Friday as normal, and thanks for being a part of it. Have a great week.